What's up, everybody? Really quick tire review here on the Vittoria Agarro in 29 by 2.6. Now you might notice this says E Agarro with the little electric hot patch. I have confirmed with Vittoria that this means nothing. Absolutely nothing. If you get just the Vittoria Agarro, it's the same. It is completely the same. It just doesn't have that. That's just a marketing tool to push these to e-bike riders. Anyway, I just completed the BT Epic, which is a 52.5 mile race with about 5,300 feet of climbing, almost all single track. I'd say, I think about 45.5 of those 52.5 miles are on rugged Ozark Trail single track. And this year I went with the Agarro in 2.6 because I had a theory, and I think that theory holds true, that sinking is slow. It was extremely dry. Even the gravel roads were kind of soft. It was so dry and loose. There was a gravel road, which was the second gravel road we got to, that it's like it was almost like river gravel sand in significant spots. And I'm a little bit heavier, you know, I weigh almost 200 without gear. And I went with the wider tire because my theory was I could run lower pressure and just get that wider footprint, which you would think. Now you can see how the light and dark on this, this is for me riding on pavement. There's a very, very clear line of what actually rolls on the pavement and what doesn't with pretty high pressure. So you can imagine if this tire was like a 2.3, it'd be even narrower how much is actually contacting the ground, because you can see the light over here versus what's borne down on pavement. If the ground is soft at all, yes, you get more traction perhaps by sinking into it and biting. But when you're doing cross country, you want to roll fast, and sinking into the trail surface where it's like kind of a deep, loose gravel, almost like a pea gravel. My theory was this would be faster, and I think it was. I did my personal best at this race, beat my 2022 best time by 10 minutes, and pretty happy with this tire. Traction-wise, you know, this is really more of a trail tread pattern with like a cross-country compound. It's the same 4C compound that Vittoria uses on all their cross-country tires. And I would very much liken this tire to a slightly faster rolling Specialized ground control T7. Although I think these side knobs, these knobs certainly don't flex as much as the T7 knobs. So maybe not quite as supple. They might not dig quite as much because these are a little bit fatter. These knobs here are kind of longer, so they don't dig in as much, but it treated me well. I was rolling up. I rode with a buddy that was running ground controls before this race for training, and I was rolling right up onto him, no problem. Of course, I'm heavier, but the bottom line is, compared to the ground control, I don't think these were slowing me down. Now, that being said, you know, I'm already thinking about next year what I'm going to do. I think what I'm going to do, if you notice, I've got the gray walls. These are the trail casing. I actually, you can watch some of my other videos. I had the new Mezcal Race on my bike to test, and it's a true cross-country race casing, and I ripped that sidewall in less than a mile. I've been riding this same tire for probably have 300 miles on it, all on very rugged Ozark backcountry type trails. Have not gotten a single puncture, no sidewall tears, no holes on top, nothing. So I think what I'm going to do next year, I like the Agarro, but I think I could get even more out of this, and I have a theory. It's going to sound a little crazy, but I think I'm going to go with the 2.6 Mezcal rear in this trail casing next year to get that same width, that same roll, especially when the gravel's really soft, so I'm not sinking down into it on the rear. And then I know this is not what mountain bikers do. Mountain bikers always put a wider tire on front and a narrower one on the back. I think that makes sense for aggressive downhill. But I might either go 2.6 Mezcal up front, or maybe if, I can't imagine my front Agarro is still going to be in good shape a year from now. But I think, and it really just depends on how much I trust not to get a puncture on the front, I think the new 2.4 Mezcal race up front, 2.6 Mezcal trail rear would actually be about an ideal setup to me, because in the seated pedaling position, I put very, 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 very little weight onto the front tire anyway. I don't necessarily like the 2.6 wide front at the kind of low pressure I'd be running just for comfort on a race like this. I'd rather have a slightly more, once I'm going down a hill, I'd rather that front tire be a little more diggy and more positive of a feeling and less of a floaty, wiggly feeling. And so I actually think I'm going to do 2.6 rear, 2.4 front, which again, I know that sounds backwards, but my theory about sinking is slow. It's faster when if everybody else is digging an inch into the ground and you're only digging in half an inch, that's faster. I learned this from riding. I have a sister that rides 2.8 wide tires, and she absolutely does not have the legs and fitness I have. But by golly, if we go riding through a grassy field and those big wide tires and she doesn't weigh much, she just absolutely rolls away from me. And so I think that theory is really proving true, which makes sense. Even the World Cup riders they're doing 2.4 inch wide tires, but they weigh like 140 pounds tops, and they run really low pressure. Well, how many PSI, how many pounds per square inch are going into the trail surface on a narrow tire versus a wide tire? If you're running pavement, that's a very, very hard surface, then of course, get a narrow tire. If you're running really hard packed trails, narrow tire, lighter weight, all that stuff's great. But for the surface, for the BT Epic, there's significant portions where, you can see people leaving deep tread marks, especially when it's so dry. It actually would have been firmer if it had rained. So as far as the performance of these go, I don't think about them, which I think is a compliment. I just ride them. They are adequate traction. They roll really well for as aggressive as they look. And it's just a solid, if you just want to go ride trails, but you don't want to drag a slow rolling tire, the Agarro is a really good all-rounder. Doesn't roll too slow, but also has some traction. It's just a really nice middle of the road to what I would say is slightly above average rolling speed tire. And the thing it does much better than the Specialized tires, even though they're really cheap, is these intermediate knobs on the Specialized and the side lugs on the Specialized, I was ripping those suckers off by this point last year. So the construction of the knobbies on this tire with that 4C is just a lot more solid. I mean, this thing has a ton of life left in it. Shoot, I might race this same tire next year just with the center knobs so super worn down. That might be my fast rolling tire. There's no need to buy a new one. So we'll see. Thanks for watching. What can I say? It's just a nice, solid, all-around choice. I wouldn't say it does anything the best, but it certainly doesn't do anything the worst. And if you're riding trails you've never ridden before or doing big days, I think the Agarro is a great choice, because it'll pretty well work in any situation. Thanks for watching.